until the Q&A session after each presentation. So before we start, I would like to remind all presenters to change your display name into your paper ID _name. Okay, all of the presentation I've done. And then please make sure to use official virtual background provided for these sessions. So now without further ado, let us welcome our first presenter, Mrs. Ririn Saprina Kadang from Binus University. She will present a paper titled From Vacancies to Insight, Topic Prediction and Emerging Skill Trends in LinkedIn Online Job Ads. Also, I would like to confirm, Ms. Ririn, would you sharing your screen? Or would
Yes,
you prefer to present with ICD's team?
I can share my screen.
Ya, kamu bisa. Oke.
Yes.
Oke.
Okay.
You can start your presentation.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ririn Saprina Kadang from the Data Science Program, School of Computer Science, Bina Nusantara University, Jakarta, Indonesia. I am pleased to present my research titled From Vacancies to Insights, Topic Prediction and Emerging Skill Trends in LinkedIn Online Job Ads. We hope this presentation will offer meaningful insights into how we can better understand today's labor market through data. Here is a brief overview of today's presentation. I will begin with the introduction, followed by the methods, then results and discussion, and finally the conclusion and future research direction. Let us begin with the introduction. Online job platforms such as LinkedIn generate millions of unstructured job postings, a source of labor market intelligence that captures what employers actually need from their workforce. However, extracting meaningful insights from this volume of data remains challenging due to the sheer variety of language, writing styles, and skill representations across postings. This challenge is also timely. According to Global Employment Research, over 40% of key job skills are projected to change within the next 5 years, highlighting the urgent need for scalable tools to track evolving workforce demands. This research is motivated by that very gap, the need for a data-driven approach to bridge workforce skills with actual labor market requirements. Looking at existing literature, most prior studies tend to examine job topics or skills in isolation, rarely integrating both into a unified framework. Furthermore, very few studies focus specifically on LinkedIn job advertisements or provide structured mappings between job themes and required competencies. To address these gaps, this study was built around three core objectives. First, identifying job themes using LDA topic modeling. Second, extracting skill sets via a dictionary-based approach. And third, generating data-driven insights to support skill alignment for educators, job seekers, and policymakers. Now let us move on to the methods. The methodology is built around a three-stage analytical pipeline applied to a dataset of over 124,000 LinkedIn job postings from 2023 to 2024. The first stage was data preprocessing, including text cleaning, tokenization, stop word removal, and TF-IDF weighting to reduce the influence of semantically weak but frequently occurring terms. The second stage was LDA topic modeling. The model was trained across topic configuration from k equals 4 to k equals 10 and evaluated using the C_V coherence metric. A six-topic model was ultimately selected for its best balance between interpretability and topic separation. The third stage was dictionary-based skill extraction. A credit skills dictionary covering technical, analytical, and soft skill was constructed, and phrase-based matching was applied to link extracted skills back to each job assigned LDA topic. Let us now look at the results and discussion. After evaluating all topic configuration, the 6-topic LDA model was selected, achieving a coherence score of 0.4269, outperforming the NMF baseline of 0.4012. For heterogeneous real-world job posting data, a score above 0.30 is considered acceptable, confirming that the identified topics are coherent and semantically meaningful. The 6 topics are as follows. Topic 0 covers business and technical operation, characterized by terms related to finance, engineering, and marketing. Topic 1 focuses on environmental and sustainability roles, with keywords around decarbonization, recycling, and circularity. Topic 2 captures media, marketing, and construction, reflecting hybrid roles combining creative and physical work. Topic 3 represent legal and administrative technical work, including legal, accounting, and compliance-related roles. Topic 4 describes planning and advertising operations, centered on coordination, deliverables, and, and Topic 5 covers actuarial and insurance analytics, a highly specialized cluster around underwriting, claims, and statistical modeling. Each topic carries a distinct competency profile. Actuarial roles emphasize statistical analysis and actuarial modeling. Sustainability roles require environmental management and analytical thinking. Operational roles prioritize communication, project management, and coordination. The key finding is that the labor market is increasingly hybrid. Technical and soft skill co-occur within the same job descriptions, suggesting employers seek professionals who can bridge both domains. I also observed that sustainability is emerging as a cross-sector competency, no longer limited to environmental organizations, while specialized roles like actuarial analytics show notably stronger semantic coherence. Okay, let us conclude. In summary, this study successfully identified 6 latent job themes from LinkedIn job ads, each linked to a unique skill profile. The integration of LDA topic modeling with dictionary-based skill extraction provides a scalable and interpretable framework for labor market analysis. The finding highlights the growing importance of hybrid skill sets, where technical proficiency must be paired with communication and coordination abilities, while specialized roles still demand domain-specific quantitative expertise. There are acknowledged limitations. Preprocessing reduced the dataset significantly, and the dictionary-based method make emerging skills outside the predefined vocabulary. For future research, I recommend exploring transformer-based or LLM-based approaches, temporal skill trend analysis, and expanded multilingual datasets. That brings us to the end of my presentation. I sincerely thank the ICAD-IS 2026 Organizing Committee and all attendees for this opportunity. For further correspondence, please feel free to reach me at the email address shown on screen. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ririan, for the insightful presentation. So we will now open the floor questions. If you have a question, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Kindly state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Okay, Ms. Ririn, if there is no question for the audience, then I have a question for you, Ms. Ririn. So, what was the most challenging aspect or part of this research, and what key lesson did you learn from overcoming the challenge?
Okay. I think the most challenge part of my research is from the code, because I use over 124 job extracting data from LinkedIn, but because of the data preprocessing, we just have around, I think, two 2000, yes, just 2000, around 2000 data. So yeah, I think that's our limited research for our research too.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ririn. And maybe another question for Ms. Ririn, audience, another audience or presenter. Okay. Okay, maybe we can move to next presenter. Let's us now process to our next presenter. Please welcome Mr. Muhammad Ardiansyah Sembiring from Universitas Sumatera Utara, who will present a paper titled Performance Analysis of Fibonacci-Based Dynamic Neural Network for Imbalanced Data Classification. A warm round of applause for Mr. Ardiansyah. You have 10 minutes. Place and time are welcome.
Okay, Miss, thank you. Just a minute. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished members of the organizing committee of ICDAIS 2026 and all participants. My name is Muhammad Ardiansyah Sembiring from North Sumatra University. Today, I am honored to present our paper, Performance Analysis of Fibonacci Based Dynamic Neural Network for Imbalance Data Classification. Let us begin. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick roadmap to the presentation. We have four main section: background and motivation, where I explain why imbalance data is a critical problem, purpose, method, FDNN, the Fibonacci growth mechanism, and justification. Result and discussion, comparison against baseline, and conclusion with future work. Each section address our reviewers' concern. Why does imbalanced data matter, and why do conventional neural network fail to handle it? Imagine a bank fraud detection system. Out of every 100,000 transactions, only 17 are fraudulent. 578 to 1 imbalance ratio. A knife classifier saying everything is legitimate achieves 99.8% accuracy, but gets zero fraud. This is an imbalanced data trap, high accuracy, catastrophic recall. Conventional static neural network fall into this trap because the allocate model capacity uniformly. Our FDNN break this pattern, growing adaptively with Fibonacci and combining with smooth to balance the training data. On the left, the problem in three bolts. Static network treat all classes equally, leading to poor recall and misleading accuracy metric. On the right, our solution. FDNN start with one neuron and grow only when needed, following the Fibonacci sequence. Smooth is applied to every model equally. No model had an unfair advantage. Now let me explain exactly how FDNN work. the Fibonacci formula, the stopping criteria, and why we choose Fibonacci over arithmetic, geometry, and random alternative. Looking at the FDNN architecture diagram on the right, input layer receive 30 PCA features, and the left, the hidden layer in the middle grows dynamic following the Fibonacci sequence as shown by the grow row. And the output layer on the right classifies each transaction as fraud or not fraud. The why Fibonacci first sub-exponential growth avoids the catastrophic overfitting of geometry doubling. Second, consecutive ratio converge to the golden ratio, P equals 1.618, giving valence table expense. Third is require zero additional hyperparameter. The empirical comparison confirm it achieve the best F1 with the lowest complexity. The moment we have all been waiting for the result. Let me show how FDNN problem again baseline under identical rigorous experimental condition. The bar chart on the left, taken directly from our paper, shows F1 score, recall, accuracy, and precision across all four original baseline. Notice the FDNN, the rightmost bar, is consistently and tallest on F1 score and recall. While accuracy difference are negligible, this confirms our early points. Accuracy is meaningless here. Recall and F1 score are what matter. K number, FDNN achieve F1 equals 0.84, recall equals 0.78, ROC equals 0.97. Compare to static MLP, recall improves by 10% percentage point and F1 by 7 percentage point. And FDNN outperforms even the modern method SGBOS at 0.81 and like GBM at 0.82 with a much simpler architecture. Our result all mean plus or minus standard deviation across 10 independent runs with 5-fold stratified cross-validation. Statistical significance was confirmed by the Wilcoxon Singh rank test and P less than 0.05. The chart shows for configuration clearly, baseline clearly. This the synergetic effect somewhat fix the data distribution, Fibonacci fix the model capacity, and together they achieves more than either called alone. Conclusion, FDNN makes 4 key contribution. First, superior performance, F1 equals 0.84, recall equals 0.78, ROC equals 0.97, statistically significant over all baseline. Second, principal design. Fibonacci growth is justified both theoretical and empirically. Third, proven synergy. The ablation study confirms Smooth and Fibonacci make independent, complementary contribution. Fourth, comprehensive evaluation. Some baseline, 5 for cross-validation, 10 seats, Wilcoxon test, full reproducibility. Looking ahead, we are already working Confederated FDNN for privacy preserving healthcare, which I believe is the most impactfully direction, as well as dataset validation, focal loss integration, and explainable AI using SEP. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please write in the Zoom chat, as my English is limited. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ardiansyah, for the insightful presentation. We will now open the floor question Q&A session. If you have a question, please use the raise hand or text the Zoom chat maybe. Okay, and maybe before we wait the question for Mr. Ardiansyah in Zoom chat, I just wondering, Mr. Ardiansyah, I have question for you about the difficulty in process in this research. What is the most difficult part for
Thank you,
this
Miss.
research?
Yeah, thank you, Miss. The main challenge was the highly imbalanced data distribution. Broadcast represent only a very small portion of the dataset, making it difficult for the model to correctly learn and identify the minority class. Another challenge was maintaining high detection performance while avoiding overfitting.
Is enough, Mr. Ardiansyah?
Enough, Miss.
Okay, thank you. So now let us move to our next presenter, Mrs. Anissa Nurul Ramadhani Novelika from Universitas Indonesia, who will present a paper titled Topographics SGS plus C Correction for Burn Area Segmentation, a multi-index evaluation using Lancet. So give applause for Mrs. Anissa. You have 10 minutes. Place and time are welcome.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anissa Nurul Ramadhani Novelika from Faculty of Computer Science, University of Indonesia. It's my pleasure to present our research.
Sorry, Mrs. Anissa, this is not the slideshow, but the presenter view.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It's
Okay, it's clear, Mrs. Anissa. You can start your presentation.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anissa Nurul Ramadhani Novelika from Faculty of Computer Science, University of Indonesia. It's my pleasure to present our research entitled Topography SGS Policy Correction for Burn Area Segmentation, a multi-index evaluation using Landsat. Okay, this presentation consists of four sections: introduction, method, result, and discussion, and then conclusion. Okay, let's begin with the introduction. As we know, wildfire continue to affect 1 million of hectares every year and have become a major environmental concern. And then accurate burn area mapping is essential for assessing damage and supporting post-fire recovery. However, mountainous region remain particularly challenging because terrain condition can distort spectral information captured by satellite imagery. So in this study, we investigate whether SGS policy topographic correction can reduce terrain-induced illumination effect and improve burn area segmentation using Landsat imagery. So what exactly causes this problem? The main issue is uneven illumination. Slope facing the sun appear brighter, while shaded slope appear darker. As a result, the same land cover may produce different reflectance value, creating radiometric inconsistency that can reduce segmentation accuracy. So to reduce this effect, we need to account for how they interact with the sunlight. This is where SJS plus C correction comes in. The method used to terrain characteristic and solar geometry to estimate illumination condition for each pixel. It then adjusts reflectance value so that they better terrain orientation. Despite existing correction methods, several challenges still remained. Three key challenges motivated this study. First, terrain-induced illumination introduced a radiometric bias, and then correction performance is not always consistent, and then quality sensitivity, and many studies evaluate only a limited number of band area indices. Therefore, this study evaluate how SJS plus C correction influence band area segmentation performance across multiple spectral indices derived from Landsat imagery. To answer this question, we developed the following workflow. The overall workflow of this study, we use Landsat surface reflectance, NASADAM elevation data, and MTBS reference data. First, the Landsat data are preprocessed to stack access, and then NASADAM is used to calculate terrain geometry. After that, BRDF normalization and SJS topographic correction are applied to reduce illumination effect caused by terrain. And then the corrected band are then used to generate band area such as NBR, MIRB, and delta indices. And then finally, thresholding is applied to produce a band area segmentation map. Okay, this is the correction process, consists of 3 steps. Estimating illumination condition with deriving the coefficient through regression and applying the SJS plus C model to normalize reflectance. And then the corrected imagery is then used to generate band area indices. The next question is which spectral index benefit the most from this correction? To answer that question, we evaluate 5 band area index: BAE, NBR, MIRB, NBR2, and NBI. And this is the 3 dataset support for this study. First, Landsat provide the spectral information used for band area analysis, and then MTBS as the ground truth reference for evaluation. Manuel NASADAM provide elevation data used to derive slope and aspect for topographic correction. With this dataset prepared, we can proceed to the experiment. Okay, we use Landsat, NASADAM, and MTBS on main dataset, and then this is for the model implementation. The first, we use the original Landsat surface reflectance. And then the second, we apply BRDF normalization followed by SJS topographic correction before index calculation and threshold based band area extraction. And evaluation metric segmentation performance is assessed by die-score, commission error, IOU, and MIOU. Okay, next we move to the result. For data acquisition in here, 3 wildfire events were selected, SJU, Thomas, and Monument. They represent a different terrain complexity and provide a complete pre- and post-fire dataset. This is for SJU quantitative analysis. For SJU, we see that a single index generally benefit from SJS plus C correction. The largest improvement are observed for BAE, MIRB, and NBR, while NBR2 and MIRB also show noticeable gains. And then this is for result qualitative analysis. For For the SJU, the visual changes after SJS+C correction are relatively small, and NBR, NBR2, and NBI show stable spatial pattern, while MIRB and BIE are more affected. So overall, for single indices, more benefit most from correction in qualitative analysis for SJU event. And then this is for monument quantitative analysis. For the monument event, we show that the strongest impact of topography is including NBE, NBR, and NBR2. And then this is for qualitative analysis. For the visually, band boundaries become more sharper and more homogeneous after the correction. And that this confirmed for monument event, topographic correction provide the greatest benefit in highly mountainous region. And the last, this is for quantitative analysis in Thomas event. The Thomas event single index such as BAE, MIRB, and NBR2 improve after correction, while several delta indices limited or negative change because temporal differencing already reduced much of illumination. And this is for qualitative in Thomas event. The qualitative map indicate more consistent in Bernstein pattern after correction, particularly for BAE and MIRB. And overall, for Thomas event, correction is most beneficial for illumination sensitive single index, whereas delta index are already relatively stable without additional correction. Okay, next we go to the result. For the result, BRDF plus SJS plus CE correction improved the burn area segmentation, particularly for terrain sensitive index. And the improvement is strongest in monument, moderate in Thomas, and smaller but consistent in SJU, and robust indices maintained in high performance after correction. And for the future work, may evaluate other region and then compare correction method and integrate a deep learning approach. Okay, thank you for your attention. I look forward for your question and discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Anissa, for the insightful presentation. So now we'll open the floor question. If you have a question, please use the raise hand in feature in Zoom, or you can chat maybe in Zoom chat. Okay, Mrs. Rika.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Miss Anissa.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I'm Rika Mulyati from Telkom University. I have one question for you. Why you use 3 event as SJU, moment event, and Thomas event? Why not just 2 event for the get result qualitative analysis?
Okay. Okay. Okay, we use we use 3 event in here because 3 event in here represent different terrain complexity, and 3 event in here have a pre and post fire data set to analyze index, single index and delta index. And they are selected because provide high quality Landsat imagery and have MTBS reference data also. Okay.
Why not just 2 event you use?
Oh, because the three event ini have different terrain. Like SCU is more steeper, and then Monument is moderate, and Thomas is give illumination condition more complex.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Miss Rika. Another question for the participant. Okay, maybe enough. Mrs. Anissa, thank you for your presentation and answer. We move to next presenter. Please welcome Mrs. Magda Lukiana from Telkom University. We will present a paper titled Attention-Based LSTM Quantization for Age Fall Detection Using Wearable Sensors. Or it's not your title, Mrs. Magda? Okay, wait.
Sorry, Miss, it's not my paper.
Okay, Mrs. Magda Arima ya?
Yes.
Arima based time series forecasting of NO2 concentration for early pollution detection. Okay, please welcome Mrs. Magda. You have 10 minutes to present.
Thank you, Miss. Okay. Good evening, distinguished committee members, presenter, and participant. My name is Magda Lukiana from Telkom University Purwokerto. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the committee, reviewers, and all participants for giving me the opportunity to present my research today. In this presentation, I will explain my study entitled IRIMA-based time series forecasting of NO2 concentration for early pollution detection. This study focuses on forecasting hourly NO2 concentration in Cilacap using an ARIMA-based time series model. The main purpose is to examine whether ARIMA can provide preliminary prediction information for short-term air quality monitoring. The presentation is divided into four main parts. First, background, problem, research gap, and objective. Second, I will describe the method, including dataset, reprocessing, ARIMA workflow, and evaluation strategy. Third, I will present the result and discussion, including model selection, rolling evaluation, and 24-hour forecasting. I will begin with the introduction and explain why NO2 forecasting is important. NO2 is a key air pollutant that can affect public health and environmental quality. In Cilacap, activity, transportation, and industrial activity contribute to change in NO2 concentration. Because pollutant concentration can change, short-term forecasting is important. It can provide preliminary predictive information before concentration pattern increase. Based on this problem, this study focuses on short-term hourly NO2 forecasting physical baseline. Many recent air quality studies use complex machine learning and deep learning model. However, for limited univariate data, a simple, more explainable baseline is still needed. ARIMA remains useful because it can test temporal dependence on short-term forecasting behavior. Therefore, this research used ARIMA to evaluate short-term NO2 forecasting on hourly data from Cilacap. This study has three main objectives. The first objective is to develop an ARIMA-based model hourly NO2 forecasting. The second objective is evaluate model performance using MAE, MSE, RMSE, and R-square. The third objective is to generate 24-hour ahead forecast with seasonal adjustment. Next, I will explain the research method used in this study. of 6 main stages. The first stage is data collection. The NO2 concentration data was obtained from the Environmental Agency of Cilacap for the period January 2025 to July 2025. The raw data consists of 9,937 record with 30-minute interval. Then the data was pre-processed and resampled into 5,088 hourly observation pre-processing data. The datetime column was converted into a proper time format, and NO2 values were standardized into numeric form, and invalid entries were claimed. Missing value caused by sensor recording error were then handled as interpolation methods to continue the time series. After that, the stationary test was performed, followed by ARIMA model identification, model evaluation, and 24-hour forecasting. Next, I will present the result and discussion. Before developing the ARIMA model, the hourly NO2 time series was tested using augmented decay Fuller test. This test was used to check whether data was stationary. The result shows an ADF statistic of -6.7808 and a p-value of 2.5022 times 10 to the power of -9. Since the p-value is below 0.05, the data is considered stationary. Therefore, no differencing was required, and the ARIMA parameter D was set to 0. After the data was confirmed stationary, ACF and PSCF plot were used as initial reference to observe the autocorrelation structure of the hourly NO2 data. Several ARIMA candidate models were then tested using grid search and compared using IC and BIC. Among the test model, ARIMA 305 produced the lowest IC value of 12538.0. Therefore, ARIMA 305 was selected as the main model because this study focuses on short-term forecasting performance. The select ARIMA model was evaluated using strategies fixed origin forecasting and rolling forecasting. Based on this result, the rolling ARIMA approach achieved better performance. The rolling ARIMA model produced MAE of 0.6081, MSE of 0.6672, RMSE of 0.8168, and R-square 0.5821. These results show that updating the model history with the latest actual observation improved the model ability to follow short-term change in NO2 concentration. From the actual versus predict graph, the model can follow the general movement of NO2 concentration, although some rapid fluctuation not fully captured. After the model evaluation, the select ARIMA based model was used to generate a 24-hour ahead NO2 forecast with seasonal adjustment. The predict NO2 concentration ranged from approximately 55.67 to 58.102. These results show that seasonal adjustment help represent recurring hourly variation in NO2 concentration. The forecast can provide preliminary predictive information for air quality monitoring. However, should not be interpreted as a complete early warning system because in this study only focuses on the forecasting model. And last, I will summarize the main findings and future work. Based on the model selection process, ARIMA 305 was selected as the main model for hourly NO2 forecasting because it produced the lowest value of the lowest value and shows suitable performance for short-term prediction. The rolling forecasting strategy improved model performance and helped the model capture the general NO2 concentration pattern. For future work, the study can be improved past a longer observation period, adding external variables such as meteorological and traffic factor, and comparing ARIMA with SARIMA, SARIMAX, machine learning, or hybrid forecasting model. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I welcome any question, comments, or suggestion regarding this research.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Magda. Now we'll open the floor question. Maybe the participant have question. Please use the raise hand feature in the Zoom and kindly state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Okay, Mrs. Rindi.
Okay, Tess, can you hear my voice, Miss?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Miftah. So I have first, my name is Rindi Nalisari from Telkom University, and I was asking a question for Miss Magda. So for your study, I noticed that your study using rolling forecasting for evaluation and seasonal adjustment for the final forecast. So could you explain the rationale behind the combining these two approaches and how they contribute to the overall forecasting framework that you have studied? Yes.
Okay, thank you for your question, Mrs. Rindi. Maybe although rolling forecasting and seasonal adjustment are both used in the study, they serve different purpose and are applied at different stages of the forecasting process. Rolling forecasting was primarily used as an evaluation strategy. The reason I choose this approach is that it better simulates a real-world forecasting scenario, where new observation become available over time. Instead of making all prediction, using a fixed training window, the model continuously updates its historical information with newly observed data before generating the next forecast. On the other hand, since seasonal adjustment was not used to evaluate the model, it was applied after the forecasting process to account for recurring hourly patterns that were observed in the NO2 forecasting data. While ARIMA was able to capture overall the temporal behavior of the series, I want the final 24-hour forecast to better reflect the daily fluctuation that commonly occur in air quality measurement. Therefore, the relationship between these two approaches is not that one depends on the other, but rather that they address different objectives within the study. Thank you, Mrs.
Okay, thank you so much for answering my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Magda, and also thank you, Mr. Rindi. So you can stop your share, Ms. Magda. We move to the next presenter. Please welcome Mr. Tristanto Wijaya from Universitas Pelita Harapan. Will present a paper titled Comparing Random Forest and LexDBM for residential property price prediction using multi-platform online listings in Indonesia. So, Mr. Tristanto, you have 10 minutes and you can start your presentation.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Respect moderators, committee members, fellow presenters, and all participants. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the AKDES 2026 committee for giving me the opportunity to present our research today. My name is Tristanto Wijaya, and today I will present our research entitled Comparing Random Forest and LexDBM for Residential Property Price Prediction using Multi-Platform Online Listing in Indonesia. This research was conducted by me, Tristanto Wijaya, Jan Fiorentino Kapoh, Bagas Anam Putra, and Evander Banjarnagor from Universitas Pelita Harapan, Tangerang, Banten, Indonesia. In simple terms, this study aims to predict residential property price in Indonesia using machine learning and to compare which model performs better. For today's presentation, I will explain 4 main parts: introduction, method, result and discussion, and conclusion. Prediction is challenging because house prices are affected by many factors at the same time, such as location, district, building area, number of bedrooms, accessibility, and market demand. The relationship between this factor and price is not always linear. For example, a larger house is not always more expensive if it is located in a less strategic district. On the other hand, a similar sized house in a premium district can have much higher price. Because of this non-linear relationship, traditional methods such as linear regression may not be sufficient. Therefore, machine learning models are useful because they can capture more complex patterns in the property data. Previous studies in Indonesia often use data from only one platform or one region. This can create bias because one platform may represent only one market segment. To address this gap, our study combines property listing data from two platforms, Lamudi and OLX. We also compare random forest and LikeGBM using the same pre-processing and evaluation framework. The novelty of this study is not a new algorithm, but a stronger empirical evaluation using multi-platform Indonesia housing data. Our dataset was collected from Lamudi and OLX. After data cleaning and pre-processing, we obtained 2,800 valid residential property listings. The main variables include city, district, building area, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, and price as the target variable. For pre-processing, we remove invalid values, handling missing data, encode categorical variables, and evaluate the model using several trend test split scenarios such as 90-10 and 85-15. In this study, we compared three regression models. The first is the random forest regression, which is an ensemble model that combines many decision trees and averages their prediction. It is useful for handling nonlinear patterns and noisy data. The second one is LikeGBM regression, which is a boosting model. It builds trees sequentially, where each new tree tries to correct previous errors. The third is the linear regression, which we use as a baseline model to show whether a simple linear approach is enough for this task. For the model configuration, random forest used 200 estimators, maximum depth of 20, and minimum sample split of 5. LikeGBM used 200 estimators, learning rate of 0.05, maximum depth of 15, and a log transform target variable. Linear regression was used as a baseline model without a hyperparameter training. All models were evaluated using the same frameworks to make the comparison fair. Now let's move to the result. Random forest achieved the best performance at the 90-10 split. It reaches an R-square of 0.9983 and the MIPE of 2.26%, MIA around 43 million rupiah, and RMSA around 83.1 million rupiah. LikeGBM also performed well with an R-square of 0.9948, but it was slightly below the random forest. Meanwhile, linear regression performed much worse with R-square below 0.5 and MIPE around 51%. This shows that linear regression could not capture the non-linear relationship in the property price. Overall, the results confirm that ensemble models are more suitable for this prediction task. We also analyzed the model robustness. When the test proportion is increased to the 730, random forest still maintains strong performance with R-square around 0.9792 with a MIPE below 5%. This showed that random forest was more stable when the data partition is changed. LikeGBM was also strong, but it was more sensitive to the data splitting. We also used cross-validation with k equals 5 and k equals 10. The results show stable R-square values around 0.98, which indicates good generalization and no significant overfitting. From the feature importance analysis, especially city and district was the most influential factor in predicting property price. This is consistent with the real-world property valuation, where location is usually one of the most important values. To conclude this study, compared random forest LikeGBM and linear regression for residential property price prediction in Indonesia, the results show that random forest consistently achieve the best performance with the best result of R-square and MIPE at the 90-10 split. Like GBM also performed strong, but it was slightly below the random forest and more sensitive to the data positioning. Linear regression was not suitable because it cannot model the non-linear relationship in the property market. For future work, this research can be improved by adding more features such as amenities, distance to public facilities, accessibility, and actual transaction prices. Okay, thank you so much for the attention, and I will be happy to answer any question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tristanto, for the insightful presentation. We will now open the floor for question. If you have a question, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Okay, maybe if there is no question for the participant, I want to ask to Mr. Tristanto about what is the most difficult part in your research process for this paper.
Okay, thank you, Miss, for the question. For me, the most difficult part of the research was the pre-processing and the cleaning, because since the data was come from two different platforms like Lemudi and OLX, the format, the quality, and the data duplication was not always consistent. So we have to remove that incorrect values, handling the missing data or the spam data, and the unrealistic price, because the data quality can affect the model performance. So for me was to combine that two different data set.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tristanto. Maybe another question for participant from participant. You can write the chat Zoom, or you can raise hand in feature in Zoom. Okay, maybe there is no question again. So thank you, Mr. Tristanto. You can stop your sharing screen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the parallel session. On behalf of IKDS 2026, I would like to thank all our presenters for their explanation, contribution, and insight. I would also like to extend my gratitude to all participants for their engagement and thought-provoking question. We hope this session has been both informative and inspiring. So before we conclude this session, we will hold a documentation. So please open your camera first and use the virtual background Zoom to all participants. Okay. Okay. Please be focus on your camera. I will count 1, 2, 3. Okay, and once again, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much to all presenter, and maybe we can meet in another time. Thank you very much and good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank
wabarakatuh.
you.